And okay, I hope now we are live. We will appear on YouTube in 20 seconds, I believe. Let's just check that. No trust broadcasts, and yes, and we are live. Hello, everyone. We start our Angular Kharkiv. Now it's 10. So you can see all the links that you can use. The most important one for you, probably, if you want to participate in a raffle from our info partner docs and win pair of active noise cancellation headsets, please use this link or use QR code and register for the raffle that we will do at the end of Meetup. Also, thank you for our sponsors like JetBrains, StyTube, and again, please join us on Telegram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And just in case, I also put my Twitter tag here. For any questions, you can ping me. If you want to make a presentation on Angular Meetup, you are more than welcome. So, just to remind you how it works. We are doing broadcast via StreamYard now, and you are watching us on YouTube. We are checking all the questions from YouTube that will be, the speaker will be asked after the talk. So do not hesitate to ask any questions. Also, I put this sign here, like I told you many times before that sometimes, we are doing like it's international, we are doing it in English. I can imagine that for some of you, it could be difficult to ask question in English. Do not hesitate to ask it on Russian and Ukrainian. I'll translate it for you, so we will cover all the questions. And back to agenda, probably you already saw it. We have 3 super speakers and great talks. I put some time in our agenda, but as usual, let's not stick too much to this time schedule. Let's see how it goes with questions and with talks. So we will just try to keep this order. And basically that's it. So I want to welcome to the stage Katerina with her talk about NX that will help us all to make our Angular life easier. Welcome. And please share your screen.
Hi, Stefan. Moment, please. Oh, wait, what's going on? Wait. Give me one small moment. So, I am sharing my screen. Okay. And can you see my screen? Please tell me. Can you see it? I cannot read the chat, I guess, but please let me know if you can see my screen.
It was there now. Yeah.
Okay, so you can see my presentation, my slides.
Now, unfortunately, we see black screen, but before it was there.
Okay, so give me a moment. I'm really sorry. Let's we'll get there. Can you see it now? I don't know what's going on with this stupid keynote thing. Wait, play slideshow. Can you see it now? Please let me know.
You can try to switch it off sharing and switch it on. Usually it helps.
Of course, I'm sorry about that. So, share screen. Okay. Entire screen. So, can you see it now?
And now I need to edit to the stream, and yes, we see the whole screen now.
So you see the keynote?
Yes.
Okay, and wait, don't leave yet. I need to hear you because I only have one monitor at the moment. I will click play and please let me know if you can see the slides on the full screen, okay?
Yeah, sure. I'll use you.
Okay, can you see the slide in full screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. We can start.
Okay, let's do this. Sorry about that, everyone. So, hi everyone. I'm Katerina Skroumpelou, and I created this talk together with Jeff Cross, who is my boss from Narwhal. So the credits go to him and myself for this talk. And this talk is an X for the Angular CLI users. So Jeff is the Narwhal co-founder. He's a farmer of pigs, chickens, and humans. And you can follow him at Jeff B. Cross on Twitter. And myself, I'm Katerina. I'm part of the NX core team. I'm a GD for Angular, Maps, Web Technologies, and I'm the Angular Athens Meetup co-founder. I'm a speaker and instructor and a God person. And today I got my first shot of the Pfizer vaccine, and I'm very, very happy. Also, my arm is a bit sore, so yeah. And Jeff and I have the BFJeff hashtag, which you can search for on Twitter. So let's start to talk about NX, and not NX in general, which makes your life easier, as Stefan said in the beginning, but specifically NX for the Angular CLI users, which I hope most of you are, since we're in an Angular meetup, right? So what if you could do a fresh checkout of your workspace and have the app running in a few seconds? What if you could look forward to writing E2E tests? And what if your PRs could be validated in CI instantly? How would that change how your team writes software? Would more features get done in a sprint? Would products go to market faster? Well, NX is the tool that will help bring all those what ifs to life. But yeah, that's the animation. But why should you use NX in the first place? I guess you're already thinking, I already use the Angular CLI. Why would I need another tool for building or testing? Is there indeed so much added value? And to top that, you're thinking, besides, I don't even work on a monorepo. This is what NX is for, right? Well, we hope we will answer both of your questions today. In this presentation, we'll see how NX will make your team happy and your builds fast. First, we'll look at the modern tools that NX offers and supports, and then we'll talk about building and build times, which is very, very, very interesting. So let's talk first about the modern tools that NX offers. NX offers support for all the modern tools out there. So it offers support for ESLint. So as you all know, TSLint is deprecated, and ESLint is the new community standard for TypeScript projects. Thanks to TypeScript ESLint by James Henry and contributors, of course. So you can use ESLint, you can opt in to use ESLint for your Angular and in general your NX projects. NX lets you choose between ESLint and TSLint. I think now it defaults to ESLint. In any case, it also offers support for Cypress. Cypress is an E2E test runner built for modern web. It has a lot of great features like time travel, real-time reloads, automatic waiting, screenshots and videos, and more. by default, when creating a new front-end application, NX will use Cypress to create the E2E test project. Cypress will run in headed mode by default, but you can also run your tests in headless mode. Videos and screenshots will be available for debugging in both cases. In headless mode, your tests will be rerun every time you make a change to your application code. You can also run your E2E tests against the production build, and of course, you can run your tests on your CI as well. You can also specify a custom URL to test, and you can take advantage of Cypress code completion thanks to TypeScript, and in general, you can customize your Cypress configuration however you need by just modifying the Cypress JSON file as you would normally do. So we also offer support for Jest. Jest is the NX default unit test runner for front-end apps. We added optional support for Jest in NX 2 years ago because we love the performance and developer ergonomics of the tool. Karma is still an option, but Jest is fast and fun, and it's a well-maintained project, and it has a thriving community. Another tool that I'm very excited about, and I'm one of the maintainers of the Narwhal Storybook package, so you should check it out, is Storybook support. So Storybook, if you don't know what it is, it's a storybook. It's an environment for developing UI components in isolation. What does that mean? It allows you to browse a component library, view the different stages of its component, and interactively develop and test components. That means that you don't have to run the whole app or build the whole application just to test a component. It gives you the ability to just run individual components in a sort of isolated environment, which is very, very good for testing and browsing your components. It's super useful, especially if you're in a large team or organization with shared libraries. So with the NX Storybook plugin, you can generate storybook configurations for individual projects, apps, or libraries. And you can do so for Angular and for React as well by just using that command I have down there. So it's amazing because you have your components ready and you can just run that schematic, that line of code that I'm showing you there, and stories will be automatically generated and you will have your storybook configuration instantly ready for you. When generating a storybook configuration, the amazing thing is that you also get the option to set up an E2E Cypress app that is configured to run against the project storybook instance. So with NX, you can build, serve, and watch your changes to your stories. And also, NX helps you migrate from previous versions of Storybook to newer ones. It has these schematics, and some of them I have written. So we also offer support for Prettier. NX set up Prettier automatically. The devs don't have to worry about code formatting, which is cool. You just run NX format and it will run Prettier throughout all your project. And it will only format your changed files. And we will see how that works in a bit. But now it's demo time. And what I will do, I have, so we will see how the command works, how NX works. So in general, you can run npx create NX workspace, and a wizard will pop up and will give you some options that you can use, or you can just pass the options with these flags that you want Angular, you want your first app name to be test app, your style. If you want to use NX Cloud, we will see all these in the demo. But if you want to set up an NX workspace and instantly start working on it, just like you do, just like you create an Angular application with the Angular CLI, in the same way you can create and set up an NX workspace automatically using this command. Now, I may need the help of Stefan at the moment because I have recorded my demos, because after giving a lot of talks, I have learned that always record your demos. So we will see a video of this demo. So I want to make sure that you will be able to see this video. So yeah, let's see. Can you still see my screen? I hope you can. If you cannot see my screen, please step in and let me know. And let me also know.
Not anymore, sorry. It's black screen now.
Okay, so let's try again. Share screen. Give me a moment. Share screen. Share. And you can see my screen now. You can see this video. Can you see the screen, my desktop? You can? No?
Yeah, all good, all good, as you said.
Okay, sorry. So let me also, if you can hear the demo or if I have to speak over it. I will go to our command line and do npx create nx workspace. Let's see what's happening here. First, it will fetch some metadata and do some local installations. And it will ask us for a workspace name. Let's say I will name it my workspace. Then it will ask us what to create in the new workspace. We can, of course, create a totally empty workspace with a layout that works best for building applications. We can create a workspace with a single React application. We can create a workspace with a single Angular application, a workspace with a single Next.js application, or a single Nest application, or a single application built using web components. But we can also build a workspace with a full stack application using React and Express, or Angular and Nest. We can also use the OSS option to create an empty workspace with a layout that works best for open source projects, or nothing else, because that was the end of the list. So let's create a workspace with a single Angular application. It will ask us for the application name. I will say demo app. Default style sheet format, I will go with Sass. Default linter, I will go with ESLint. And should you use Nxcloud, it's free, doesn't require registration, and it gives you faster builds, run details, and GitHub integration? Of course, yes. So it will create a sandbox with an X. Let's wait for it to run. It's done. Let's go in our workspace. If we open our workspace in VS Code, let's see a little bit the folder structure. We have the apps folder, which now has our demo app, which is a usual Angular application as you know it, with its app module and its app component. And here is also the demo app E2E, which is the Cypress test that we mentioned before. And it contains an E2E application written in Cypress. But there is also a libs folder, which is now empty, but we will fill in eventually. And there are some tools as well. The schematics folder, where we can add our custom schematics. And as we usually expect, there is the angular.json file and some presets for Jest, the package.json, the nx.json, and that's it, and the ESLint RC.json. I would like to show you the dependency graph, but it will not make very much sense in this application. It will be very, very simple. I will just show it to you. So the dependency graph for our application is pretty simple, and of course it looks like this. The E2E applications depend on the actual applications they're testing. What if, though, we had a more complex application with more dependencies? For this, we will use the NX examples repository, and we will actually see how everything is interconnected. So that was the first part of the demo. I hope you can still see my screen. So the dependency graph that I showed in the end is a dependency graph. It shows how it's a visualization, like a graph, that shows how everything is connected together and depends on each other, like different libraries, different components, different modules. Of course, the application that was the sample application that was just generated using this command was very, very simple, and you just saw that it was just a one-way thing with 2 nodes. But luckily, there is the github.com/narwhal/nxexamples, which is a repository in GitHub that is maintained and updated very, very frequently as new features get added to NX. And this is a more complex workspace that has a lot of applications that use different components and shared components. And now we will see the second demo, which shows sort of the extents. Not the extents, it just shows a much more complicated example of using NX and what you can do to take advantage of the features there. So let's see the second video before we go on. So let's take a look what we have here. We have the NX examples folder, which has inside the apps folder, which has a cart application with its E2E tests, and the cart application, we can see that it's a React application. It also has a products application, which, as we can see, is an Angular application. And it also has some libraries. It has the cart library, which has inside some parts of the cart application. And it has a products library, which again has some parts of the products application, which we'll see in action in the browser. And it also has a shared library. In the shared library, it has some shared UI components that are used by both of the applications, like the header, which we will see is written in JSX. And some other utility libraries that like the JSXify. And if we take a look, it also has a library for state management, which uses NGRX. And then it has some other UI elements. So let's take a look. What do we see when we run the application? To serve first the cart application, we can do nx serve cart. And it will just run our local server. And we can see the application running, the cart application running in 4200 port. We can see the header here. Now, let's see. When we serve the products application, and we refresh here, we see our products, and again, the same header. As we said, the products application, the carts application is a React application, and the products application is an Angular application. But the NX header that we saw, the shared header, is written in JSX, but it's exported, and we can see that we can import the same element like this in both our Angular application and our React application. And it's imported like this. Another interesting thing to see is that some of our applications, for example, all the applications that go in the cart, all the libraries that go in the carts application are written in React, just like our cart application, and the libraries the UI libraries that go in the products are usually written in Angular. But as we saw, we can have the shared libraries that are written, for example, in JSX. And let's take a look what happens when we run the dependency graph. So Yeah, usually it opens right. Okay, yeah. So the dependency graph for our application looks like this. Pretty more complete than the one we saw in the example application before, right? So we can see that the shared header, for example, which is used both by the products and cart, both the products on the cart application depend on the shared header. Again, the E2A tests, of course, depend on their applications, and we can see all the other dependencies that we have here. For example, the shared header is using the JSX file library, so it depends on this, and so does this UI library here. So in this nice way, we can see the whole dependence graph. We can choose to only see one application, or we can group by folder. Now, let's see. We talked about the affected command. Now, let's change something. Let's go ahead and change something in our header element. For example, let's change the background color from blue and make it red and save. Now, if we go and run NX affected depth graph, the depth graph will show us only these parts of our project which were affected by our change. Our change was in shared header, and both the cards application and the products application depend on the shared header. But the three applications for cards and products depends on the cards and products app respectively. So if we were to rebuild, retest, or rerun, these parts of the code that were affected would have to do the same thing again, would have to retest or rebuild. So this dependency graph helps us understand a little bit better. If we show the whole card, again, it will show us in red the parts that were affected, and we will have a general better understanding of how our whole code base is affected when we change some small thing. So let's take a look. So that was the demo. I'm clicking play again, and I hope that you are able to see my presentation. Let me know if you cannot see the presentation, please. I assume that you can see my presentation, so I am moving on. So let's see now how NX, after this nice demo, let's see how NX makes builds fast. So, okay, so let's take as an example a customer service portal with these pages: the knowledge base, the support tickets, and the live chat feature page. This is one application, but we can partition it into several libraries that compose the application. And each section of the application can have its own features, which can be separated into even more libraries. For example, the new ticket feature is the screen where tickets are created. So, and since those sections and features of the app will definitely share some components and utilities, we can extrapolate more libraries out of this, such as a design system and some utilities for communicating with the backend, for example. In a reliable application, there would be many more ways to partition and share functionality between libraries, but let's keep it simple, for now. Now, let's consider the lifecycle when a developer on the team wants to change the layout of the new ticket UI. They would make the code change inside the feature library, then open a pull request. If your CI tooling doesn't understand what changed, sorry, these slides are moving a bit on their own. If your CI tooling doesn't understand what changed and what its impact would be, it will naturally rebuild and retest everything, which will call Jenkins there to burn. And as the project grows in scope, the total CI time will grow with it. If you put that on a graph, and okay, no, where is it? No, I hate automatic. Give me a moment. Okay. If you put that on a graph, we can see that the full time it takes to run CI is really a factor of how many projects you have and how long each of these projects takes to build. We will see that graph again, don't worry. So what NX does is that NX understands how your libraries and application depend on each other in what is called the project graph or the dependency graph, which we saw in the demo, right? So using the project graph, NX can look at what projects were touched in the code change and determine what can be directly or transitively affected. Like we saw before, we changed the shared header library, and this affected the project that we're using it, and this affected the E2E projects that we're using it. So it can determine what can transitively be affected as well by your change. Then CI can rebuild and retest only what's really affected by your change, saving a significant amount of time and work. So if you've changed the new ticket library, and since the support tickets feature depends on the new ticket and the customer service app depends on support tickets, NX knows that customer service app and support tickets can be affected by this change. So it only runs their own tests, their own end-to-end tests, and whatever other tasks could be affected. So now our total CI time still is a matter of the projects being built and how long they take, but we're building fewer projects, only the affected ones. So that means that the total CI time is as long as our parallel task. But we can do even better since NX is able to parallelize tasks. That's why. So you can run all 3 projects in parallel. This is why your total CI time is as long as your longest parallel task. Which first you have them. So let's put them all together now that we have the graph here. So in the naive workspace build time, the first example, we would build each project one by one and build everything. So it would take a huge amount of time. Using the affected command of NX, it will only build the parts that were affected. In the previous use case, it will only be the header and the 2 apps that we're using it and the E2E. And then if you parallelize all these tasks, you only need to worry about your longest parallel task. So let's see, even though we're able to rebuild only 3 of these projects, those projects depend on unaffected projects. So by default, each affected project will pull in the sources of its dependencies to build from scratch. But now NX supports the ability for libraries to be built independently, and consumers will consume the package libraries instead of sources, which is cool, right? So this allows what we call incremental building. Incremental building really becomes powerful when you can cache and reuse the package libraries. So if I build and test the new ticket library in CI and the design system and validators libraries have already been built and cached in CI's local cache, the builder cache can just build the source code inside the new ticket library without having to rebuild the source code from validators and design systems. So let's take a look at this example of building times for the 3 parts of your project. I hope it will show. Okay. That's it. If a dependency of the target has been built, the build doesn't need to be totally fresh. So each individual part can use the cache to save building time. If we put the affected and parallel functionalities in action together with the incremental cache, our build time is practically reduced to 1/4 of the initial. Because not only are we parallelizing the tasks and are only building the affected, but we're also using those cached parts of the libraries. So if we take a look from where we started and what we end up with, at each step, our build time is reduced. And eventually, with the use of everything, our total CI is as long, again, as our parallel task, but now it's very, very short. So come on, next slide, please. Okay, so what if I really need to fix this automatic transitions. So what if CI didn't just have access to the cache that was generated on CI, that could access the output of commands that had already been run locally. And this is where the NX Cloud comes in. What NX Cloud does, and I hope this animation will stop now, please stop. So what NX Cloud does is that when you and the other developers of your team that are distributed across your company or the world now run a command and they use NX Cloud, the result of this command gets saved in the NX Cloud. So this is a distributed cache that can be used and reused by developers on your team that are anywhere, and it will not just use the cache of your machine. So if you put everything together, the affected, the parallel, the incremental cache, and the NX Cloud, which is the distributed cache of whatever command your team has run, then practically you can reduce your build times very, very, very much, as you can see from this graph here. If you see it all together, then you end up with practically minimum time. So this can actually result in build performance improvements like 10 times better. So the NX Cloud works together with the developers, it works together with your design system, and it works together for your organization so that everybody's happy. And there's also more. It's not just that NX offers. NX offers GitHub integration. You also have the NX console, which is a graphical user interface basically for the NX console. So instead of having to remember the commands that you type on your command line, like we saw in the demos, you can just use this graphical user interface of VS Code and just run the commands from there. You have more plugins. As we said, we have support for React, Node, and more. And please visit Modern Angular with an X. And for an X, you have to remember that you have modern tools, fast builds, and happy developers. And you can visit nx.dev/modernangular if you want more information, or you can just go to nx.dev in general. So that was my presentation. Thank you. Stop share.
Thank you very much. Very interesting topic. I'm more and more inspired to move to NX Cloud. Seriously.
It is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, the idea is perfect. Probably we have a set of questions. I'll ask them one by one. I will probably ask mine first. We'll use the chance. The idea itself, as I said, sounds too good to be true. The question is, what are, because probably some enterprise solutions, some big projects already started using the NX Cloud, and what are the biggest challenges do they have on their path to this dream?
So what are the biggest challenge of a company?
Yeah, maybe some projects
in NX Cloud, you mean?
Yeah, to move to NX Cloud. Maybe some of them couldn't do it that easy because of some. So it's good information to know for other projects that also want to migrate like ours.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not 100% sure I can answer accurately, but I'll give it a shot. I would say that, yeah, you know what? I cannot answer accurately, so maybe I will not try to answer in case I say something wrong. But let me think. A challenge for a company off the top of my head to integrate with NX Cloud would be to make sure that if they use NX, it would be pretty simple, right? If they already use NX, because it would just need a command, and they would just need to create a. I guess if it's a big organization, they would have to connect with someone from Narwhal to set them up. But if it's a smaller organization, I guess they can just set it up with the CLI and then make an account on the NX Cloud and just see their runs there. I guess that's the short answer, but I don't want to try and give a long answer that would be inaccurate.
Okay, thank you. So we will start with questions. Yep.
But if your question were how can a company that's not using an X would like to move to an X?
Yeah, that's exactly our case.
Okay, then if you have an Angular application, it's very, very simple because you can just use a command and it will transform your Angular workspace into an NX workspace. Let me find that command.
I remember it was something like make Angular faster or so.
Yeah. So that would be very, very simple, and it actually works very well. If you want to use that command, yeah, you just do ng add at Narwhal workspace, and it will go into the trouble of migrating and taking your whole application and restructuring it into an NX workspace. Because
Okay.
the NX workspace already uses Angular JSON, as you saw in the demo, so it would basically just do some improvements there and restructure your folder structure.
I see, with ng command. I remember Narwhal provided some kind of package like with funny name, make Angular faster, that basically is doing the same. Okay, good. We will start with questions from YouTube. Please don't hesitate to ask your questions. And first question from Paulina. So, is it possible now use private NX Cloud for production applications for security reasons?
It is possible to create private NX clouds, but I'm not sure if you mean to like run NX Cloud locally, like an on-prem scenario. I'm not sure this is. I don't think this is possible yet to like run a local server that will have NX Cloud installed. I don't think this is possible at the moment. But of course, you can use a private setup of NX Cloud. Like it will be online, it will be like I guess on Narwhal's cloud, but your company will only have access to it.
Okay, good. Next one from Jakob. Not sure it's about NX, but to resume the question that how fast do you update libraries for new version of Angular? So it's probably the question about what's your suggestion to update the libraries?
So I can read this in two ways. If you're using an X, how fast are we as an X maintainers to make sure that all the tools that we use in order for you to build your app with an X, how fast are we, the maintainers, to make sure all the tools are up to date to the latest versions? The answer to that is that we try to update our tools to the latest versions so that each new version of an X has all the as good as this can be to use the latest version of other libraries. If you mean how I would suggest that you keep up to date, you keep your dependencies up to date with the latest versions, what NX does, which is very, very good, is that it helps you update from version to version very easily. So if you say have an NX workspace of version 9, and now it's and you want to update it to version 10 or version 11, you can just run a command nx migrate, and it will run schematics and generators to actually migrate the project and update all your libraries on its own. So you will not have to do any manual updating on your own. NX will take care of that by just typing in a command, saying that you want to migrate from that version to that, and it will make sure to keep all the packages up to date. So yeah, that's my answer, I think.
Okay, good. Thank you. And this is one that looks very general, but maybe in scope of NX. What's the reason to mix React and Angular applications? From YouTube.
That's a good question. I think that the answer is that It's the same reason that you would prefer to build something with React and something with Angular, because depending on what you want to build, you will use the respective tool. So if you feel that you have a project that needs to be built in React for some reason, you build it in React. If you have a project that needs to be built in Angular, you would build that in Angular. So NX gives you that option, gives you that freedom of choice, that you can, if you feel that if you think that you need some of your UI components to be written in React, then you can create a shared library in React and just use the shared components, like in an Angular application if you need, like we saw in the demo. But I guess it depends on the use case.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. I think that's all the questions that we had from YouTube. Okay. One more time, again, thank you for your talk. And as I said,
thank you very, very much for having me.
Plan to migrate to the NX Cloud. So,
yes, please.
Good. And I want to welcome to the stage our next speaker, Maria.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Stepan. Thank you for having me here.
You are more than welcome. So please share your screen.
Want to stay a bit longer for me to see if I'm going to share it successfully. So,
yeah, sure.
I think it's about this. I'm sharing it, right?
Yes, we see it.
Perfect. So you see also my presentation in the full screen.
Yeah.
Perfect. All good. Let's start. My name is Maria Korneeva, and today I'm going to talk about error handling in Angular with a focus on HTTP errors. I'm going to explain in a bit in a moment why. But first, let me briefly introduce myself. I was born in Uzbekistan, and then my parents moved to Russia, where I grew up. Though I have a lot of Ukrainian relatives, and I think like 5/8 of me should be Ukrainian. So if you have some questions in Russian or Ukrainian, I'll try to understand those two. And then I moved to Germany. So in Russia, I studied linguistics, and I even had did a PhD in this. But then I decided to pursue the youth dream, the dream of my youth, to become a developer. So I moved to Germany. I studied business informatics. And here I am, working as a technology lead for front-end at a small company called Aleri. We're based in Cologne in Germany. And in my spare time, I like discovering new places, but also writing technical articles. I'm writing articles at Medium for ngconf. And if you have any questions or any feedback, anything you want to tell me after my talk, feel free to drop a line via email or Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever suits you best. But let's move on to our topic, why error handling in the first place. Since we're writing web applications, those are shipped to the users and their client side. We don't know what's happening there. So our applications are spread somewhere around the globe, and we have no clue what happens there. And what we can be sure about is that whatever can go wrong will go wrong. So we have to think about all the possible and impossible errors that can occur. Well, for example, like something like this. Fortunately, this is not the real one, so we can move on just to prove the point that errors can happen anytime. First of all, everyone can write applications that work, but if you want to stand out, you have to care about user experience, and not showing this blue screen of death is one part of this user experience. Just take care of your user. Something went wrong, but we have a plan. So that's what makes a very good application, or that's what differentiates a good application from a very good application. The second part is security. It might be the case that you just log too much, or the server response provides some implementation details, or if the user opens the console, he or she might just see something that he or she is not supposed to see. For example, what is the supposed length of the input, for example, for the password. So, well, just hide all the things that hackers should not see. And this is another reason why you have to deal with errors. And then again, if you want to improve, you have to know what happened, since your application is somewhere client-side, somewhere in the world out there. You should track the errors to be able to optimize. So let's have a look at the types of errors. There might be some internal errors, usually JavaScript errors, some unhandled promise rejections, or undefined things. So you probably know what I mean. There might be some business side errors. Those are not technical errors per se, but it's something which the business side defines as errors. For example, negative values in the age input field, which is unacceptable, invalid, so it's kind of an error. And of course, there are external errors, something like HTTP errors. And in my talk, I'm gonna concentrate on those, just because they are the most unexpected ones. They happen all the time, and they might also cause internal errors too. Because, for example, the response type doesn't match the one that you expect, or nothing comes back, so you have some undefined values. Well, that's my favorite kind of errors, and we'd better be prepared for them. Let's have a look at another classification. For example, so first of all, there might be some validation errors. And don't get me wrong, you have to validate your input. So make sure this is it is required. You check for the length, you check for valid characters, whatever. But sometimes validation errors still can happen. For example, you have a zip code and you have a city, and you validate both inputs, but the combination doesn't make sense, and you will get a validation error from your server. In this case, why I'm differentiating between why I think that this is a separate type of errors, because the user has a chance to enter something different and to succeed in his or her requests. So that's why validation errors have to be specific. You have to provide as much information as possible to give the user the chance to change it to succeed. The second type is the general one, the most known one is just like 404 or 500, whatever, some HTTP error response. So you don't get the data, or you cannot update the data. The third one is also something known, like you might face it, you can expect it, but sometimes the user doesn't care. That's the difference. For example, you want to load some banners, some commercials, some teaser, something that user. So if you say, "Oh my God, a technical error occurred," you might confuse the user. So in this case, maybe, well, it's better not to do anything about it. And the last, but not the least, the unexpected errors. They do occur. They can occur anytime, since you don't expect them. What to do about them? Well, as I said, if it's just a validation error and the user can do something about it, you have to provide as much information for the user, or the chance description or anything, so that the user can change the input. In case it's, well, you cannot get the data or update the data, you can, well, you should explain what's not successful and maybe provide some plan B. So maybe, well, if the update was not successful, maybe the user can send an email, or the user can, I don't know, like, just provide some plan B, a workaround if you don't have the data, or explain exactly what happened. Well, in case the user doesn't expect anything and it errors out, just keep poker face. Well, don't show anything. Everything's keeping cool, like, well, nothing happened. And then in case it's an unknown error, well, you have to have a fallback scenario, some redirect to an error page, or some general notification, like, dear user, a technical error occurred. That's like the worst case scenario, but still in this case, you have to handle it somehow. Well, I'm talking about reactive error handling, but you don't have to do reactive programming to handle your errors. In this case, I just like the whole idea of considering web applications as the stream of data. You just like the whole idea of the application is moving around your data. And if you think about your applications in this way, an error is nothing else but the interruption of this stream. So what you can do about it, first of all, you have to react. And I like the pun about it, so reactive in the sense that you have to react upon your errors. But the question is how. The first choice is you catch and replace the error. And this is one of the strategies. So I will talk about this in more details in a while, in a minute or so. And the second strategy is to catch and rethrow. So you will, in the first case, the recipient won't get anything, won't know that the error occurs. You just say, okay, there was an error, and then I just replace it by some default value that I have for this use case. And then the recipient just gets the default value and is not aware of any errors. And the second strategy is catch and rethrow. So then the user will learn that the error occurs and will have to react upon it itself. And in this case, I'm talking about components. So your components might or might not handle errors themselves, depending on your strategy. So let's have a look at some operators that can help us. But again, you can do without them. So it's just a nice help how to deal with errors. Because especially in Angular, once you start sending HTTP requests, you're dealing with observables. So you are in the domain of reactive programming. So you can also keep using reactive operators from Eric's JS library. So the most useful is the catch error operator, and it does what it says. It catches errors and then replaces the values by the ones that you provide. So this is the typical catch and replace strategy. So here is our stream, it errors out, and then you just provide, you catch it, and here you provide something else, what you define here. I will show a code example in a minute. In this case, off is not a particular, it's not specific for error handling, but this is a very useful operator just to provide this replacement. So you can basically make your stream out of any data that you have. Here is an example of how you can, what you should put in catch error, because catch error expects on an operator function as an argument. So, and this operator function has two arguments. It's the error and the caught observables. This is the source observable. So you can return the source observable, but then you didn't do anything about it. You can do something with the error, and you can of course replace the whole thing in here by this method. And on the next slide, I'm going to show you what this method could look like. For example, handle error, because it takes the error response, it takes the error message and returns a function. That's what we want to have here. The function takes error response as an argument and returns an observable, in our case of null, for example, because null is in our case the default value. So you just, and in here, you can set error notifications, like doing something, informing the user about the error. You can track the error, and here you have to provide some replacement observable. In our case, just null. But you can have some default values in here. And such function can be used with catch error. There are some other useful operators, for example, throw error, and this is good for our catch and rethrow strategy, so that you catch the error, you do something with it, maybe you inform the user, you track, and then you rethrow it, and then it's gonna propagate from the service, because I hope you do your requests in the services. It's gonna be propagated to the component, so that component is also informed about the error and can do some component-specific stuff with it. Some useful operators around it are also retry and retry when. So it's also good practice if well, if something is unstable and you think it's going to be useful to retry it, you should retry it. Like it's hard to say when's a good practice because, if this is a text service where you know it might be just timed out, you might retry it. But if it's something like if you're gonna get 4 of 4, I'm afraid the retry won't help much in this situation. So it depends on the use case. And retry when just helps you to provide some additional conditions under which you can retry your request. So let's move on with our errors. The first type that I named was validation errors. And let's say we have our form, and here we have a very basic error notification. It's just a paragraph with the validation error, and when the user clicks on submit form and the error occurs, then it's going to be displayed. But this is specific to this input. That's why we're displaying it under this input field. That's the implementation of the function. So we send the form, and then we just pipe it, and in the pipe we catch it. When we catch it, we can look for a particular status. 422 is, in my current project, the convention for the validation error. So I set the validation error to true. I display the error that I get. Maybe this is also not the best practice, just because this might be too technical. Maybe you want to map it to some user-friendly text. It's up to you. But then again, you have to return something back. Here you can proceed with catching other errors, but maybe it's not the best way to do it here, just because we're in the component. So maybe you should do this generally in the service. We're going to talk about this here. Now we're talking about the known errors, when the data is not loaded or not updated. And here, one of the ways to deal with those errors is to use the interceptor. Here you can also catch it, and here it's an also nice way to handle refreshing of the session token, for example. So here you can check what's the error. And if it's unauthorized, you can refresh the token, or you can check if this is an external or an internal error. So, I mean, if this is an instance of HTTP error response, we know that this is external error. But if it's not, then this is something in JavaScript, like local JavaScript specific, as I mentioned in my classification before. The drawback of this solution is if you have multiple HTTP requests and you want to handle errors differently, well, this one will handle it for all of them in the same way. So if you want to be specific about this service, then you have to come up with a different solution, because then you can say, okay, the error occurred in the customer service, or the error occurred in the billing service. That's exactly those are the advantages and disadvantages of this approach. So there's another way you can deal with that. Here you can just provide an error component, which is a generic one where you can display all the errors that happen with the specific text message, error message from your service. And here is the component itself. And it just subscribes to, well, you get the error notification service. I'm going to show it in a moment. You subscribe to the notification of this service, and then just display it in here, in your error component. And then you can place this component wherever you want. So, for example, here. And this is the one that is not input specific. You cannot attribute it to a particular input field. So you just could place it above. As I said, this is the error notification service. Very simple. It just has a one notification, which is a behavior subject, and other. Well, of course, you can provide it as via a getter function. It's a better approach than just set it to public. But for the demo purpose, it's just fine. And here could be how you can see the implementation, what the service does about it. So we have a service, and it does something and sets some requests. And then when the error happens, it just nexts like pushes this specific message. It should be more specific than this one, to the notification, and whoever subscribes to this notification gets this message. For example, our error component. That would be a very this is a generic solution with specific error messages. But actually, we can do even better, even drier. For example, if we introduce the error handling service, which will take over all this error handling for us. In this case, we provide the handle error function. I've shown it before when I was talking about catch error. So it just looks into the error response and then does all the handling of the error response. For example, you can track errors here, log it, send it to your error notification service, etc. And you can even provide some additional logic in here. For example, here I just said I want to react to some known errors in a different way as to the unknown errors. Here is just a simple utils function that says, okay, if it's a known error, I will do this. If not, I will throw it and propagate it to the component, to the recipient of this, to the caller of this function. So in this case, the service that does something will look like this. It will send the request, catch the error, and then just call handle error of our error handling service, providing a very specific text message, error message. The next type of errors are those silent errors. They're those that the user doesn't care about. And this is a very simple case, because here, if I will load a banner and it errors out, we just return null, and the subscriber doesn't ever know that something happened and just handles this null or any default value. You might have a default banner for this case, just displays what it gets and doesn't have to deal with all those errors. Yeah. The last but not the least, the unknown errors. In this case, Angular provides the default error handler, but it does nothing but logs out the error message. And as I said in my introduction, it's not always a good idea, just because it might log too much. We don't want to inform our hackers about implementation details. The second reason why you should replace the default implementation is, again, because you want to track those errors. And you can also implement some default behavior for all the errors that you haven't thought about. For example, the generic redirect to an error page, or maybe also display some notification. So this is what you could do. This is the Angular error handler, and you just extend it. Well, name it whatever you want, global error handler it is in our project. And then in this case, I just redirect to error page. Don't forget to provide it in your module, and actually you're done. Well, I was talking about HTTP all the time, but the question that arises whenever I talk about some similar topics is, well, what about offline? How do you, you have to deal with this too, because even you might run into problems even before you send any HTTP requests. And in here is one way of handling it. You just have behavior a subject with observable, where you merge two states. Let's put it like this: online and offline, and then you differentiate between them, and you map it to true and false. And then in your components, you can subscribe to this internet connection, and you automatically know what state you're in. And this might be useful, for example, for buttons. If you have a submit button, you might say you might disable it if the user is offline, but then you want to enable it again if the user goes online. That happens a lot when you take a train in Germany, for example, and you have those spots without internet. Well, but this is not enough. As I said, you might run into trouble even before you are connected to internet and send something. You might get a 0 as status code. This is a bit tricky. This is not an HTTP status code because it's not listed under the official codes. Those have 3 digits, and well, you probably have heard about them. This one happens even before, and I've provided some use cases when it can happen, and it's also useful to take care of it. For example, if the request is aborted, it can be aborted by the browser for any reason, but also for by some browser extensions. It might be time outed, and that's why you just don't get anything. The connection dropped during the request. You get in the infinite redirection loop, and then I think after 20 redirects, according to the standard, well, you will get the browser will set 0 in the status of your request. You might even run into problem if you get the response and then the browser doesn't like your way of doing it, or the browser has problems of parsing the response, and then whatever when in trouble, just set the status to 0, and that's what you get. It's the trickiest one to my mind, to my opinion. It might be also the case that the firewall blocks, that DNS server fails to resolve. Well, as you see, the use cases are very various. So, well, this is the most difficult one. But also in this case, you might implement this default error handling. And here are some, well, let me briefly talk to the end. As I said, like, my point here is that you have to have a default solution because you cannot think about all the errors. So, and default error handler or global error handler is a good solution for this one. And here, as you've already seen, well, to my mind, you have to deal with error handlers. Error handling, this is for the users, but you also have to test your code, and this is for developers, for your colleagues and for yourself. And here I just provided some ways to test the code that I've just shown to you. It's pretty straightforward. So in a component, you just throw an error, and you provide a response, and then you just throw this error response as a mock implementation of the function, and then you subscribe to it, and then you just check if the error handling was correct. So if the error response was set to true. In case it's you're in the consuming service, you can just flush it. You probably know it. So you just provide some HTTP error response in here and flush it and check. But make sure you expect it in the right closure, because you have to expect things in the error function in here, not in the first one, but in the second one. And then in case of error handling service, well, here it's a bit more complicated. You just have to throw an error and then catch it and then call your service. And then, okay, you have to subscribe to it, and then you check in here what your service did. So here you just start with throwing an error to check the behavior of your error handling service. So we've covered a lot, and I hope that you have an impression of that you can filter out errors, and you can decide whether you replace them. So you just filter it, or you can think about it as a filter or as a sieve, because you might filter it out so that components or the end users and recipients won't get any of this. You might propagate it down, but the main idea is that your user won't get any of the rain. So it's always sunny in the user's world. Error handling is part of UX, so of user experience. So make sure that the user feels safe, comfortable, and dry in your application. But error handling is by no means justification for bad user experience. So you have to validate your input fields in the first place. You have to provide, you have to navigate your user safely on the paths of your application. Error handling is just your plan B. Thank you for your attention. and thank you for having me. So I think I'm ready for questions if you have some.
Thank you very much, Maria. So I'll probably start with mine first. Well, first of all, just highlight, I didn't know about second parameter code. Like, probably I haven't read documentation for quite a long time about this, and was something new for me as well. And about questions, that's what you said about offline mode and possibility to disable some buttons, submit buttons. It looks really nice and really great user experience. So the question, whether you have heard about some already existing libraries that maybe provide directives that you can just apply for your submit, or maybe some modules that patch your form that could work in this way, like out of the box.
Well, to be honest, I haven't heard about any libraries just because it's so simple you can do it yourself. And our project, we have huge project like with 30 apps, like a huge mono repo with 30 apps with millions of users in production. Wait, I'm just trying to find what was it? Was it in here? Offline here, but I mean, we still use the solution, which is disable buttons or display overlays if the user goes offline.
Okay, and also overlays. I was thinking about disabling the buttons if we have right now a huge project to implement this internet connection subscription is not a challenge, but to implement all the places to disable the buttons, it could be a challenge. And if there is a library just to do it for you,
I can look it up, but even in this case, you just provide a directive and you put it on your button. So that's what you do at least.
Okay, good, thank you. And one more, please. That's also from practice. Errors about lazy modules, if you know. Sometimes it happens, as you said, some firewall or so, and basically the part of the bundle cannot be loaded. This module cannot be loaded. Any suggestion how to handle? What's the best way to show an error in this case?
That's a very good question. Well, and like the best answer is also it depends. It depends on the use case. If this is some functionality for me, this is there is a difference between if the user stays on the page where the error occurs, or I redirect the user to this final error handling. Oh my God, something went wrong, and I cannot do anything use case. So if this is something where you say the user cannot use your application anymore because this is like the whole use case is broken, then you probably have to redirect the user to this error page. If this is some minor stuff that just well, I mean, one of the forms is not loaded or some some minor functionality, then you can also display it as you can disable it. You can react upon the error, and if the user doesn't know that he or she is supposed to see something additional, then you can just display nothing, like keep silent about it. If it's something where usually what lazy loading modules is some part of functionality that is missing now, so then you just have to deal with this displaying the error. If you say, okay, without this module, the usage of my app is no longer valid, or the user cannot load it, cannot use it, and you just redirect to the error page.
Okay.
I hope I got it right. I got the question right. If not,
that's exactly the question. For most cases, the lazy loading is about changing the route state, going to another page, and basically nothing happens because this module wasn't loaded.
Yeah, but you can react upon it so that as I said, depending on the use case, how awful it is.
Okay, I got it. Thank you, and we are moving to our YouTube questions. So first one from Eugene is how such error handling impact performance of web application?
Could you repeat this one?
So it's a question about performance. Do we have any performance issues because of error handling?
No, I think you have performance issues without error handling. I mean, it depends on what you do in your when you handle your errors. If you sort your arrays in there, it's not a good idea. If your tracking implementation is slow, of course it will slow down your implementation. But usually, if you don't handle errors, that's what will result in the blue screen of death. So.
Okay, thank you. One more from Eugene. Do you cover your probably unit tests or integration test error handling functionality? So that's probably already shown in a slide that this question, was.
Those were unit tests. Well, if you want to have, like, you can also do some end-to-end testing in here just to verify, for example, your text is red and your input field border is also red, or if any error message is displayed. So you can also do end-to-end testing in there. But you also have to, this is a trade-off. Unit tests are fast and end-to-end is slow. So you probably should not test all the input validation errors in your end-to-end testing. You'd better do this in your unit tests, but you can also check by end-to-end tests if the error handling, visual error handling is displayed correctly.
Okay, thank you. Next one from Andrei. From your perspective, what is the best place to handle 401 errors? For example, I want to get new access refresh token, pair back. What will you choose, interceptor or error service?
I'd say I'd choose interceptor because I think it's valid. Okay, again, it depends. If all your services have to have this bearer token, then it's interceptor would be the best place because it just handles this use case for all the services. If you have some services for the logged in user and some services for not logged in user, then you have to differentiate between those. Then you're probably gonna implement it in a separate service. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Moving next to
as a quick addition, we have, for example, a login management service that checks this, and for the application that requires the logged in state, then the service always checks if the user is logged in, and then if not, redirects him or her to the login page. But this is the auth 2.0 login standard. And for the applications where it's not necessary, we don't have this service.
Okay. So question from Victor. Some errors have to be fixed, but devs don't know about them if we didn't care about sending the ones to the server. Any advices here? Good practices.
If I understand the question right, those are the silent errors when the user doesn't care. Well, first of all, the first error handling is not to send a request.
So it looks like there is a second part of this message. Some third party may emit console log warning error, deprecation warnings. Do you prefer to silent console at all, or somehow redirect console to the server? Probably send some console messages to the server. That was the question.
Okay, we don't have any console messages at all. That's forbidden by the ESLint rules in our project for security reasons. So if you wanna know something about errors, you just track it. We're not displaying anything. I hope this is what the question was about.
Yeah, it was about third party. If you have third party libraries.
If they log something, well, in this case, we have a security audit, so we'll have a look. if those third-party libraries are okay for us, and if they log something that we don't want to. But it's a good question. But we don't do anything about it. We just log it.
Okay, so you do not do some monkey patching of console log, not to output it. Just override to be sure that third parties will not do console log.
Again, as I said, like we have a security audit, and what the guys are doing, if they're patching it, I'm not sure, because I just use it as an npm package from our private Nexus. But as far as I know, well, they don't silent it. But that's a good point. You actually could do this.
Yeah. Okay, next one from Paulina. Can we somehow handle file download errors? For example, some access is absent and we get 404 on its download.
It's well, I thought you're gonna get 0 if something goes wrong with file. Okay, no, sorry, that was the file protocol. With this one, I have to check out. Let me come back to this question. I think I can answer it on YouTube, right? Or here on StreamYard. I have to look it up in our code because we do deal with this. We do handle it. I'm not, before I lie, I want to make sure that I provide the correct answer to this one, if it's okay.
Well, you can do like we do it in front end. We just show first good result, say some answer, and then if server returns error, we roll back it.
As I said, I'm gonna just check what we exactly do about file download, how we react upon it, and then I just provide some code or some
okay.
Well. Yep.
That's good. I think that will be interesting to hear, not only for Paulina.
Cool.
Okay, good. I see that's all the questions. Now we need to select the best question. What we didn't do for previous talk, but Katerina already selected, so we'll do. So let's Maria, for you now the call to select the best question.
There were so many good questions. Can I just will I see can I see all of them?
I can switch if you want. I can switch to Katerina. She will tell what was the best question for her, and meanwhile you can check.
Thank you. Give me more time to check upon all those questions because all of them were really good.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. We'll switch to Katerina back.
Hey, sorry, it's a bit darker here now. Let me open a light. Okay, much better. So yes, the best question was the question about using private NX Cloud for production applications for security reasons. And I chose that as the best question because it's something we do get asked a lot. And a lot of companies need such a scenario, have such a use case. And yeah, I think it's something that a lot of companies worry about and ask about it. So that's why I thought it was the best question.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Paulina, you're getting your JetBrains license for 1 year for any product. Yeah, please contact us after the meetup in any channel. We will provide you the key to use. And thank you, Katerina.
Thank you.
And we are switching back to Maria.
So I had a moment to look through, and I think I like the question from Andrei Blechin the most, just because I'm working a lot with the whole authorization and authentication topics, and it's just, well, it resonates with my current project.
Okay, cool, thank you. So Andrei, same goes for you. You're getting your JetBrains license following year for any product, please contact us in any channel after a meetup. And Maria, once again, thank you very much for the great presentation.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, and we are welcoming on the stage our next super speaker, Bonnie.
I don't know if I want to follow her. That was a really good talk. Those were both really good talks. Luckily, so I'm not going to spend too much time because we're almost out of time anyway. But I don't have a technical talk. I just want to show you guys something cool. So I'm sure your brains are full right now of all the cool stuff that you just learned. So this will be super easy. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, sure, please.
I'm going to share my screen, and then I'm going to share my slides. So I'm going to show you this. You're going to see this for a second, but I'm going to show you first the slides, and we're going to come back to this. But
Yes.
Let's start. I just want to tell you really quick, like kind of the background of this and how this whole thing started. And you probably already know me. If you don't know me, I'm Bonnie. I am an Angular GDE. I'm a panelist on Angular Air, NG Houston, and the founder of Angular Nation, which is what I want to show you guys today. So I really want to thank you, Stefan, for giving me this opportunity to share Angular Nation with your community. Okay, so this is a very quick, brief introduction to Angular Nation, and I just kind of wanted to tell you like what inspired this group. So we started, I actually had this domain. I got this Angular Nation domain from Jeff Welpley. He was going to build something, and then he got busy with another project and he didn't have time. So he asked the GDEs if anybody wanted this domain. And I was like, I don't know, it sounds cool. Angular Nation. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I said, yeah, I'll take it. So I grabbed this domain and then I sat on it for years because every time I wanted to build something, like I love the Angular community, but I was thinking of like a Stack Overflow Reddit kind of thing. Like people could go and ask questions more in depth, more like Stack Overflow. Sometimes they're just not very nice, right? And I wanted a more supportive place where people could ask questions, but kind of a bit more in depth, you know, because it's hard sometimes to ask questions on Stack Overflow, especially when they're getting more complex. The beginner questions is easy, but when you get into like architecture, it's hard. Anyway, so there's some great blogs and tutorials about Angular, but also there's a lot of outdated stuff and confusing stuff. There's some tutorials, good tutorials and bad tutorials, and beginners, like really it's difficult to understand which is which, right? Especially if you're a beginner. So in 2015, when I got involved with the Angular community, I started making friends, and my Angular knowledge increased so fast after I started making friends in the community because I was just more involved and I could ask questions, right? And none of us considered ourselves experts back then, but it didn't matter because just collaborating and comparing what we were working on was super, super, super helpful. So that's what I wanted to build with this domain, was like something where people could connect. And like I was traveling a lot for conferences the last couple of years before coronavirus, then everything stopped, right? But I was traveling a lot, and I just really loved the camaraderie and that community and the people that we meet. But not everybody can travel for conference. Well, now nobody can travel for conferences, right, at the moment. But I really wanted to try to find a way to let those people experience what we experience at the conferences and just like to make that friendships and stuff. So I wanted to do that, but I just didn't know how because we already have Twitter, we already have Slack, and every idea that I came up with was like, no, that's stupid, you know? So basically the domain sat there for a long time, like 3 years, and I never did anything with it because every idea I had was like, no, we already have that. You know, we already have Gitter, we already have Discord, we already have all this stuff. And then in 2019, I came across this Yoga with Adrian. I think I actually came across it in 2018, but when I discovered this talk, Yoga with Adrian is a YouTube channel that I love. If you're into yoga, if you're not into yoga, go check it out because I love this YouTube. But this YouTube channel, like she's got really good content on her YouTube channel and she's always putting out new content. And I was like, how is she making money? Because I love that she's putting out these really good videos, but I'm wondering like what is her business model? And I love it. You know, I want to figure that out, right? So I found a talk that she did called basically Giving to Receive, where she talked about this Mighty Networks platform, which is what I found. And then as soon as I found that, I was like, oh my gosh, I love it. This is perfect. This is what I've been looking for. And then we moved forward. And then in early 2020, I think we did the private launch in January, and then we did the public launch in May. So we launched. And just a little bit about this, right? When I started getting involved in the community and speaking at Angular conferences, most of the speakers were using Twitter. And so I followed all my favorite Angular people. And pretty soon I had a really cool Twitter feed that was almost entirely Angular. And it was great. And for some people that might be really boring, but like, that's all I use Twitter for, right? So for me, it was perfect. I could keep up with all my friends. A lot of us actually would use Twitter, even when we're like arranging to go out to dinner after a conference, we're like all, using the DMs and using the groups and everything. So really Twitter was fine for a long time. And the past couple of years, that's been working really great. However, we've all seen the warnings lately, I think. I would assume. If not, you should check this out. There's some harmful patterns evolving in social media. We've got Instagram influencers and YouTube personalities and bots and trolls and political propaganda and like crazy stuff, right? And the problem is that the algorithms they use are intentionally divisive and harmful. And unfortunately, they're really effective, as we've seen from Trump and Brexit and all. I don't even want to get into politics, right? We're going to keep moving. But anyway, the point is that I want to make this point now more than ever. Social media is actually starting to be harmful to our health, especially the young people, right? And although I had carefully cultivated my own Twitter feed so that it was all Angular all the time, in 2020, that all changed, right? I'm an American expat and I follow a lot of Americans. There's been a lot of frustration with politics and crazy stuff going on. Now we've got Biden. Things are slowing down. Things are starting to calm down a little bit. And then we had the coronavirus. There's been human rights conflicts like all over the world all of a sudden. So no matter what country you're in, this stuff is stressful, right? And I care. And I think the fact that I care so much makes it even more stressful. So I want to keep up with the news. But also what they're using, what they used to call news now is like a little something more sinister. If you have not seen The Social Dilemma on Netflix, I really highly recommend it. It's not related to Angular at all, but it's just really something alarming, especially if you have kids. Anyway, I don't want to get too caught up in this, so I'm going to keep moving, but I just wanted to mention that because it's a really good documentary. But getting back to us, right? This is a thing, like we used to call it social networking, and then somewhere along the way it changed to social media, which is now something completely different because we don't even have control anymore over what we're looking at. Someone else is driving our like doom scrolling feed, right? And we've known for a while that social media is harmless, but we still need a way to connect with each other. And now more than ever with the coronavirus, like we really need to be able to talk to each other. And, have you ever called customer service and it's like, press 1 for this and press 2 for that. And you're like, I want to speak to a human. Just press 1 for human, right? I want to talk to a person. And so that's really what I wanted to capture is like, let's get beyond just the internet and talk to people. So I've been speaking at Angular conferences for a couple of years. I love these crazy people. And what I love about the Angular community and the GDE program is people are really, really nice and they're humble and they're all a bunch of nerds, right? So if you're in the hallway of a conference and you get a group started talking about code, like they'll just stand there and talk to you all day long unless they have to be somewhere, especially like NG Vikings, NGBE, some of my favorite conferences in the whole world. I love that friendly environment and I miss that, right? I really want the people who can't travel, and also attending these conferences is expensive too. So I wanted to be able to have something where people who can't travel can still kind of have that vibe. And that's why I created Angular Nation. So we could all have a place like, like conferences where we could just chat with each other. So Angular Nation is private. It's an online community, but it's free. The only reason it's private is because we have a code of conduct. And the only basically is just be nice, right? That's it. Like sometimes people can get really hostile. People can be kind of mean on YouTube and Twitter and GitHub. Sometimes we see kind of rude comments. So we say like, even if you're going to criticize somebody, you have to be nice. That's it. It's very simple. And also no advertising. Don't spam us with ads. But other than that, right, that's it. It's a free place. Everybody's welcome. All you need is your email address. The thing is, because it's private, it takes a second. You have to like put in your email address and then request it. We have like 6 people who are sending out invitations. And like I said, the code of conduct is the same as many communities. Just be nice and don't spam us. At first, I was really worried, actually, when I launched this, that people would ask a lot of questions and I wouldn't be able to answer them all. So I invited a bunch of GDEs before we launched. But really, I had nothing to worry about because we have so many nice people and we really have a lot of people who are super, super helpful and people are unbelievably nice. It's really great. So people can come together and post whatever they want to share. They can ask questions. Sometimes there are actually really good discussions on here. And we established right from the start that beginners are welcome here. So there's no flaming someone for asking a stupid question. We don't do that, right? All questions are welcome. I've really actually been surprised at how many architects, we have a lot of people asking very, very advanced questions, which I love. So we've had some really great discussions. So as you can see, and we're going to look at this in a minute, but the interface actually looks kind of a lot like Twitter or Facebook. It's got that kind of scrolling thing. However, one thing that is hard with Twitter is like going back and finding something later, right? So this has a really good feature that Twitter doesn't have. We have topics for each post. So you can post something and then you can go back later and find it. So if you want to find all the articles about Firebase or everybody talking about Ivy or whoever's talking about, lifecycle hooks, then you can just go to that topic and you can see all the things that have been posted about that topic. So it's just a little extra functionality. So far, I think we have, 20 topics or something like that. Angular JS, CLI, schematics, elements, material, lots of people talking about state management, Scully, RxJS, that kind of thing. We also have some of the core team authors. We have a lot of GDEs in here helping out, answering, asking questions, things like that. We also have a lot of channels. I'm going to skip through this a little bit because I'm going to show it to you live because this actually, I made this slideshow a couple months ago and I want to show you like what's going on now because there's been really cool stuff that's happening. Anyway, but one thing that was really surprising, like I said, I actually asked this question a couple months ago, how well do you feel you know Angular? And I was surprised because we had a lot, this was my daughter's vote. I took a screenshot on her screen, but we actually had a lot of people that are really architects and team leads and stuff like that. So we've had some really cool discussions. And that's the thing, I think, really, is there are so many beginner tutorials out there. But if you're an Angular developer, like there's some point, which I'm sure a lot of you probably know, like there's all these tutorials and then you reach a point where there's like none, right? Because you kind of get into more advanced stuff. And that's really, I think, where we found a lot of gap. And so we have a lot of discussions. I actually run architect training there in small groups. I do content sessions and then we have office hours. So with the architect training, we do, we have material and then people actually come in and we all turn our cameras on and then I just sit there and answer questions in office hours. And it's really cool. It's really fun. We actually just finished our last office hours today. And then I'm going to run the course again, probably in about a month. We also have scholarships. The way this works, because as you probably know, training can be really expensive, right? And even sometimes I try to make it really affordable, but the currencies in different countries around the world kind of make it prohibitively expensive. So even if it's a reasonable price in the US, if you're in another country trying to pay for something in US dollars, it's crazy, right? So this is why I started the Baker's Dozen, and really for underrepresented groups. For every 12 people that we put in the course, we have one person that we put in for free. So if you cannot afford training, but you're interested in that, you can always apply for the Baker's Dozen. And that's it. I want to show you, let me check and see I think if you guys can't hear me, let me know. Cause my right ear pod is cutting in and out, but I'm assuming you guys can hear me because Stefan will let me know if not. Okay. This is just, the homepage. This is just kind of you get to see what it looks like when you come inside, right? And I had a couple things open that I wanted to show you. There's a chat here, there's events, there's channels. Channels are like breakout rooms, right? Where we have smaller groups. But really, like the fun thing about this is that we really have a ton of online events. So I just want to show you a couple of things we actually had a job fair. We had a community job fair. This happened about, I think it was April 10th. I think we've already done this, but we're going to do it again. So it was actually really cool. It was completely free. We had hiring managers and people who were looking for a job. We just put them all in the same group and had everybody go through and introduce themselves. We actually had several people that came out of that with job offers. So that was pretty exciting. And then what else? This is something that we're working on right now. Registration is open right now. Tomorrow is the last day to register for this. So if you want to have, the way this works, the mentor program, and I'm just kind of showing you because we're running out of time. That's why I'm not scrolling down, right? You got to go join and then you can see all this stuff. Basically the mentor program is Just we pair up people, we pair up beginners with experts, and then they will go off and meet one-on-one, twice a month for 3 months. And then we kind of just keep an eye on them. We want to have some accountability. So like if you get paired up with a mentor and the mentor ghosts you, you can come back and talk to the committee and, we'll get you another mentor and that kind of thing. But so yeah, tomorrow is the last day to sign up for that. If you would like to participate in our mentor program, go sign up. You could be a mentor, you can have a mentor, and you can actually have a mentor and be a mentor at the same time. So that's really interesting. I also have a diversity challenge. Personally, I was really excited to see 2 other women doing technical talks tonight. I thought that was, because when I see women doing technical talks, for me, it's very empowering. I love it. So I really want to get more women. I want to get more underrepresented groups. And so I'm just trying to challenge people. We have all these smaller channels, and I want to get it's just a good place to practice. You know what else that I hear so much, because I talk to people all the time, right? I just want you to know, of all the people that I've talked to, and I really encourage a lot of people to do technical talks if they haven't before, so many people tell me that they're not confident with their English. And I want you to know that if you ever consider that you would do a technical talk if your English was better, that's ridiculous. Don't, because Americans usually, I'm learning Dutch right now, and it's really hard, right? So we have a lot of people on Angular Nation who do not speak English as a first language, and there's all kinds of crazy accents. And I've talked to so many people that are kind of just not that confident about it. And I'm really here to tell you, people say that to me, and I'm like, I understand you fine, right? So don't worry about that. A lot of people, it's scary doing technical talks, but the point is that we have smaller groups, and we want you to practice on us. We really, even if you're not that confident, anyway, I'm going to keep going. Right. So this is one that this is actually kind of crazy, because I did not think this would be so popular. But we just started to do an after Angular Air. We would just jump in a call, and anybody who was you guys right now are watching on YouTube and you're in the chat. And so we would say, anybody who, if you want to just jump into a call with us and hang out and ask questions and stuff like that. So we started doing this. And this actually, we have no agenda. We have no talk. We have no present. We just hang out. We're just hanging out. And this actually has become a really popular, we have, because it's the last call for some of us in Europe. Most of us, it's 7 p.m. on Friday. So we have beer and wine, and we're just hanging out and talking. And this is actually really just a social call, but it's a lot of fun. And everybody's invited, right? This is one that we do once a month. We have hallway track with the Angular team, and I don't really publicize this. I don't tweet about this at all, because I don't want everybody to swarm us, because it's kind of nice to be cozy. But we invite the Angular team once a month to just come and hang out with us and not do a presentation, and not sometimes they actually do tell us a lot of what they're working on and stuff like that, and they answer questions, but really it's just an opportunity to get to know them, and also actually for them to get to know you as well, because your camera's on as well. And it's just it's cool. It's we get to talk to humans face to face, and it's so nice. We have Angular Americas, we have Angular APAC, Angular South Asia, we have Angular Europe, we have Angular Africa. So basically what we're trying to do is kind of break them into regions. We don't want to have a channel for every country, because then we have a bunch of small channels, but we're really trying to sort this by time zone, right? So basically, whatever time zone you're in, if you go and look around, you'll probably find people near you in your time zone. However, you're more than welcome to join all the channels. It doesn't matter if you live in Europe, or you can join all of them if you want to. And we have a lot of camaraderie. The hosts all kind of know each other. We talk about Angular updates. Sometimes we play trivia games, and it's just fun. What else do we have coming up? Once a month, we have Ask an Angular GDE, where the GDEs basically sit there for an hour, and you just ask us questions and we just answer them. And every once in a while, the GDEs actually kind of start debating with each other. Usually we all have the same answer, but we have some good discussion. And it's okay for us to argue, because we're all friends, right? So it's very good natured arguing, but sometimes the arguments are actually really, it's interesting when the experts start, arguing with each other, and you just kind of sit there and go, whoa, it's crazy. I was thinking about this because Katerina was talking about working with the Storybook team. I reached out to them last week, and I was like, hey, we love Storybook. We have so many people that like Storybook. So will you just come and hang out with us? And we want to meet you. And so we have a couple of people that are actually doing a lot of Storybook with Angular kind of stuff, and they're going to come and hang out with us. What else do we have? Meet the Native Script team actually is tomorrow And I talked to Nathan. I don't know if you know Nathan Walker. He's a hoot. Nathan is so funny. And I talked to him yesterday and I said, hey, can we like give away some Native Script swag? Do you have any like hats or t-shirts or anything like that? We're going to play a game. We're going to give away some swag. We're going to see what the Native Script team has been up to. That's tomorrow. So I'm just going to show you, we're almost out of time, but this is the stuff we have coming up. This is the stuff. Let me go to the past events to see. We also, all of this stuff is recorded and we post. We don't share this stuff all publicly. Sometimes we do, but most of the stuff is here. Almost everything we'll share the recordings. Almost everything is free. My architect course is not free, but we do have scholarships. But all of these community events are free, and you can join us. And again, I just want to go to the upcoming tomorrow. That's the Dutch Angular group. We have Angular Americas tomorrow. We have Meet the Native Script team. And then at 7 p.m. we have the social where we just kind of close out the day and ask everybody how their week went. And we have a lot of these small. And the thing is, we have GDEs, we have experts in here, but some of these are also first-time speakers, right? So if you're interested in being a first-time speaker, if you're interested in just if you want to just hang out with human people that are, love Angular, this is the only thing that we all have in common. Everything on here is about Angular. We also have some discussions about kind of the surrounding Angular ecosystem. Obviously, like people like NX, people talk about RxJS, NGRX, Cypress. We love Cypress. We love GraphQL. So there's a lot of other, but you know what I mean? The Angular ecosystem. Everything about here is the Angular ecosystem. And like I said, it's free to join. So that's it. I saw a couple, I was getting distracted because y'all were asking me questions and I could see them. So anyway, I'm going to turn off my screen share and see if we have time for these questions real quick. And maybe Stefan can come back. I think we're almost out of time and I have a hard stop at the top of the hour. So that's why I'm talking so fast. Questions. Are there mobile focused channels? Yes. Well, so Native Script is going to be here tomorrow. And basically the channels and topics kind of go according to demand, right? So the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Whatever people ask me for is really what happens. So if there are people in here who want mobile focused channels, we already have the PWA channel, I think, our topic. Anyway, come in and I try not to separate it out too much if we have like Ionic or Native Script, but yes, we do have people doing a PWA. And also Victor had a really good question. Oh, by the way, I almost forgot because Victor, I'm going to come back to your question because it was really good, but I wanted to share something with Jacob because Jacob had a really good question earlier during Katerina's talk about updating libraries, right, with that NGCC. And I wanted to mention, so how do we find this? Because there was an event recently. I hope Jacob is still watching, because if we go into the compiler topic, we actually had the linker team, which is the Peter Bick and Darwin and them, and Alan, this one. We had the linker team come on and talk specifically about like the NGCC and how that is evolving with the Ivy compiler and how that works. And I actually could not possibly explain it as well as they did, but this is the recording is there. So Jacob, it was a really good question. And they talked about that. And again, anyway, so check that out. I'm going to turn back off my screen share and I want to address the question, the monetization model that Victor asked, because it's a good, and I'm actually really not good at that, right? Because I'm NG mom, I'm not good at capitalism. So the way this works is we don't have any ads. By the way, we do not harvest and sell your data because I really don't like that. It's a pet peeve. I don't like people like collecting all my data. So we're not doing that. So currently right now I'm running the architect training. We have a couple of free courses, We have a free RxJS course. We have a free schematics course, but basically the courses I'm just about, if I had more time today, I would have brought y'all a little preview because I'm just about to release my brand new advanced DOM manipulation course. So basically the monetization model is that I actually got this from Adrian from Yoga with Adrian. Her monetization model was giving to receive, which is basically we have free beginner content, always will be free forever. And then we have advanced content that's paid. And so that's the monetization model. I also have a Patreon because people were telling me they wanted to help because we have so many free events. that it's actually slowing down. Like my course is taking forever because I'm doing all this free stuff. So if we have enough Patreon people sign up and we have enough money coming in, then we actually won't have a monetization model and we'll just keep on doing free events. We have a lot of community-based, we have some community committees, like some of the initiatives that I talked about, the job fair, the mentor program. These things are being run. I have volunteers helping me with that. So we really, really, really like to keep things as free as possible, especially for the beginners. But going forward, basically, we're going to have more advanced courses. The advanced courses, especially like architecture stuff, will be paid, and that will pay for everything else. One thing that we are never going to do is, like a couple of years ago, Medium, everybody was, putting all these articles on Medium, and then they threw up a paywall in front and charged. Like, I don't like that. So everything, the community channels will always be free. And then over time, we will add more and more training that will pay for it all. That's our monetization model. And I think we're out of time.
I was
like, I'm talking because I want to tell you guys. Basically, just come to join Angular Nation, and you can come in and check it out.
So yeah, that was the main question that I wanted to ask: how to join Angular Nation?
Yeah, go to angularnation.net, put in your email address, and then basically somebody's going to let you in, but it depends. Sometimes we're sleeping, right? So, but yeah, it's actually a human that will let you in. Oh, there, and the raffle. Okay, Stepan said I had to pick the raffle, but I can't handle this kind of responsibility. So I want to pick a random number. How many people are in? How many names do we have? Because it's a good prize.
Yes, pretty good. And we have 39 people registered.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen so you guys can see, because I'm just going to do a random number between 1 and 39 so that we can be objective. Are you ready? Number 23. Number 23 is our winner. That way it's, because I don't want to play favorites. I don't want to just pick a name because I can't do that. I can't handle the responsibility.
Unfortunately, I have all names comma separated, so I will have to count till 23.
Hold on, I'll tell you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Stanislav Voitov. Stanislav Voitov. Yeah, I said that right. Stanislav, do you see it?
Yeah, I found. So
Stanislav says, I don't care how you pronounce it, I won. I think I pronounced it right. Okay, I have to go because I actually have a meeting right now and I don't want to be late. But I really want to thank you again for inviting me. Thank you so much for having me on your show and letting me tell all of your viewers about Angular Nation. I appreciate you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so and that's basically it. So please thank you very much all our speakers again, and the recording will be on YouTube if you miss some parts very soon, all the parts. Follow us on YouTube and see you next time.